Amirah. Amirah is a Kenyan artist and filmmaker. Over a 10-year period of filmmaking, she has crafted a signature style of blending reality with fiction through a strong visual language in both her commercial and cinematic work. This has seen her helm campaigns for branded content, fashion films, music videos, and TVCs for brands such as Cadillac, Pepsi, and the Louvre Abu Dhabi. Having the finger on the pulse of the most pressing narratives of our times, we're happy about the upcoming Directors Talk, a presentation created especially for this occasion in collaboration with the renowned production company Radical Media. We're sending love and massive thanks to Amirah for taking us behind the scenes of her latest project. Stay tuned.
When they were say reading us, they would say, well, you guys that dress up in women's clothes, you're finding an easy way out. But they don't realize we have a harder time than the heterosexual man, because first of all, we have to deal with the fact that if you're a person of color, you have to deal with that. Then you have to deal with the fact that you want to be different. And when you go against the grain, the majority, they want to get you.
I'm Amirah Tajden, an artist and a filmmaker. Welcome to my talk. It is titled Representation is in the Details, Not the Devil. Thank you for tuning in.
It's nice to be able to have a shape and have all this and still be on the runway. That means a lot, okay? Because I'm not a size 6, honey. And when you have all these curves, it's real nice that Patrick understands that. And he does.
Who am I? I am an artist first, and I say I'm an artist first because I think there comes a time in any creative person's life when they have to decide what their medium is going to be. And I think for me, that decision came very early on in my life when I was probably in my teen years, and I was exploring gender politics, gender identity, my own personal gender identity. And in this journey, and during this journey, I discovered punk rock. And by discovering punk rock, I discovered not just the music, but I also discovered this beautiful range of expression. And it was fashion, it was makeup, it was, I mean, you know, even just writing. Like, you know, I used to make a little zine, and it was all these little things that came together. And I think these little things were me starting to understand the value and the power of the detail, and the value and power of details. And it was during this time that, you know, I was growing up in Nairobi, I was a teenager, and at about the same time, in my mid-teens, my family moved to Dubai. And, you know, growing up in Nairobi is a whole deep and beautiful journey. And you're constantly faced with so many social issues, you know, whether it's political, it's international, it's national, it's racial, it's class, it's, you know, capitalism at its worst and best, post-colonialism. Everything, you know, is bombarded, and you're navigating all this, but also navigating your personal identity. And while I was experiencing all this, we also moved to Dubai, and moving to Dubai was a whole other chapter in formation, only because, you know, it was also coming to a place where it wasn't really about the politics of race per se, and it still isn't to this day, but it was the politics of class, it was the politics of capitalism, it was the politics of identity, and identity of a city and where you sat in that city as your own personal identity. And I think it was around the same time that I was getting even deeper into punk, and especially the clothing. And I loved the whole DIY vibe, you know, whether it was painting my own punk jacket or, you know, making jewelry out of tin or whatever, pins or whatever I found. I was also discovering how to tell a story in that expression. And that brings me to, I guess, what was the beginning of my love for fashion and clothing and words, and putting that together, and then discovering the power of photography and video, and understanding that you could further words through screens, and you could further political and social agendas through screens. And, you know, I think that was the first time I fell in love with the idea of putting words on clothes, you know, whether it was me painting like, you know, silly slogans, or it was me painting slogans that meant so much to me that I was discovering in that moment in time, or lyrics from a song that I absolutely loved. It was me also narrating and representing myself to the world. And so that kind of, you know, took its way, was a core part of me, like deciding that I wanted to go to art school, I wanted to become a filmmaker, and I wanted to be a director. But it also meant I had to choose where I wanted to go learn that craft, and I chose to go to South Africa. And it was in going to South Africa that I first discovered my own Blackness. I discovered how I was a Black person. I discovered what it meant to be a Black person, and what it meant to not be a Black person, what it meant to be a Black person who doesn't look Black, what it meant to be a Black person in post-colonial Africa and in the modern world. And it was also at the same time that I also was spending a lot of time in America, also doing a bit of studying there, that I also discovered and understood the power of my Blackness and the weight, rather, of my Blackness. And it was at that point where I started making work that truly started to ground itself in identity politics and in representation. For me, representation, I like to break the word up as representation, because I think we all come into this world as a replica of something, of a human being, of two human beings that came together and created us. But I think it's how we then move through the world, how we start to craft our own personal journeys and stories, that we truly start to understand representation. And I think for me, representation is not just putting a Black face on a camera and saying, hey, we tick the boxes, we're representing, but it is about the detail that goes into the process and the nuance of representation. You know, it's giving a person a chance to create something that will go on, to have a life beyond just a moment in time in life, but will be timeless, to put it simply. But will also be that person who is afforded a chance in a space or in a room that wasn't created for them. But in that room, in that space, they can craft their personal journey and their experience into a piece of clothing, into a film, into a script, into a painting. And that goes on to be shared with the world, and somebody can have resonance with it. And that for me is why I truly believe that representation comes down to the detail.
Yeah. You have to be proud. If you're big, if you're round, if you're skinny, if you're short, if you come to me, you're definitely gonna have a smile, because the things are whimsical, and I don't know.
So my first understanding of how representation is in the detail is, or my first realization that representation is in the detail was a few weeks ago, if I'm being perfectly honest, when I was sat on my desk and I was writing the script of the film that I'm about to share with you guys. And it was while writing this script on my desk, I have a photograph of my grandmother. She's wearing laços. Laços are two pieces of fabric that are from my community, which allows me to give you a brief history of me and my community. I am a Swahili woman. We are a tribe from the East African coast. We're a mixed race Creole people, identify as Black. And my two grandmothers were Black women who came from these islands, married Indian men, and had these Indian men disowned for marrying Black women. But it was through these women that I understood at my core who I was, and I understood my Blackness for the first time, from as little as I was, when I started to understand that as Swahili people, despite coming from very complicated slave histories, we had a language, we had a cuisine, we had color, and we had fashion. And I think those were my first inklings of falling in love with expressing oneself through what you wear. Which brings me back to the laço. So the laços are two pieces of fabric, which we wear when we pray, when we're just chilling at home. But they're very colorful, they're heavy patterns. You can see some examples here. And this photograph that sits on my desk of my grandmother, who taught me how to tell a good story, which is why, homage to her. She's wearing these laços, and on every laço, there's a piece of text that comes with it. And this piece of text is very poignant because when they first started, they were embroidered into laço fabric, and the person who was embroidering it or was commissioning the embroidering would do it because you give it as a gift to a fellow woman in the community, whether it's your granddaughter, your daughter, your sister-in-law, whatever. And there's always a saying. So whether it's poetic, whether it's sassy, whether it's a proverb, there's always deep meaning into why you received a lasso and why that lasso was gifted to you through words. And you know, my first memory of receiving a lasso was probably from my grandmother's, you know, and seeing my mom wearing them, and you know, being around the women in our family, and always, you know, being in rooms where we're all wearing lasso, and then everybody has these little words on their lasso. And you know, you wear them with pride and you receive it with pride, and it's quite a beautiful tradition. And it's detail. It's that tiny lettering on this piece of fabric that, you know, resonates and has so much, you know, power over the person wearing it as to why they choose to wear it, why they choose not to wear it, why they choose to be photographed with it. And you know, in this photograph of my grandma, which you can see here, you know, she's wearing these laces. I can't make out what the text is, but you know, she got real cute that day. She was taking this photo, which was a big deal back then, and you know, she chose to wear these two pieces of fabric. And you know, I would love to know what they said, but it is that. It's that little detail on why a director like me, you know, when I'm making my mood boards, when I'm briefing my styling team, a costume designer, you know, it's like, these are the designers I want to work with. This is the story I want to tell. This is, you know, the formation that I want around, you know, the film, and not just let's put them in some clothes that are hype and cool, but more the why. And I think in my film work, more than my commercial work, I have the liberty to craft this. And I think it's almost a responsibility as a director in this world today, just because of how we present ourselves to the world, and everything is so visual, and we're constantly consuming visuals on our phones and our screens and our laptops everywhere. And I think it's this responsibility of a filmmaker, of an artist. Once you put work out there, you know, you don't know who's going to see it. You don't know who it's going to resonate with. So it also speaks to your politics. It speaks to the grander story behind the messaging of your film, of your commercial, of your music video. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we have now, that we have access to as many clothes that we do, that we have designers who are making clothes that, you know, would have been a far-fetched idea even just 10 years ago. And, you know, it brings me to why I chose these two artists. I call them artists because they're not just fashion designers, you know, they are poets in their own right, and creators of a very special art form, and that is the clothes that people wear, step out their houses and go to meetings with and change the world in. Kirby Jean Raymond of Pierre Moss and Fade Dumboya of Labrum. And the reason I chose these two designers was, yes, because they're Black, but also because they have a beautiful way of working in words into fabric. And I guess that's my conditioning from the lasso, where I really do love and appreciate how the power of words, not just through dialogue in a film, but also in what your character's wearing in that moment, speaks to that character's journey, speaks to what somebody's going to watch and resonate with in your character. And even in fashion film, you know, I also direct a lot of fashion films, and while I may be, you know, directing fashion films where I'm told that this is the clothing we're going to use, that liberty to select what clothing you're going to use, that liberty to select who's going to wear the clothing you're going to put on screen, I think those are where a director really comes into play and has to take on that responsibility that I speak of, to truly craft a new narrative and a new world for their audiences. I'm going to play you the trailer to the film. I hope you all get to watch it very soon. But in this film, like, it's a story about African immigrants. It's a story about African immigrants in the Middle East. And it's a story about how, as immigrants, we all get dressed up that Friday night or Thursday night out here, and you look real cute, and you go out and dance, and you forget your troubles for that moment in time.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dubai, where the local time is 12:20 AM and the temperature is 32 degrees centigrade. For your comfort and safety, please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the aircraft has come to a complete stop and the seatbelt sign has been switched off.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a funny story from my village. When I found the father.
The two artists who have key pieces in the film, Fode Doumbé of Labrum and Kirby Jean-Raymond of Pierre Moss, both stand for a beautiful way of working in text in their protest through fashion, their social justice, and of course their own personal narratives.
My name is Fode Doumbé. I'm the founder and the creative director of Labrum. I use fashion as a vehicle to tell untold stories about West Africa and my home, Sierra Leone. We have a rich cultural heritage, design, language and music that was not celebrated in the mainstream media when I was growing up. Whilst the toxicity of slavery cannot be erased, by sharing the triumphant stories about my country with the West, I hope to provide a cultural reference point that celebrates the strength and beauty of my people.
It was important for me to work with Fode's design, especially because I don't think we've ever seen the black man in an outfit like the one that the character wears in the film. And I think that's a new celebration of the African. It's almost like the new African, I want to say. And what does the new African look like? You know, it's in a world where we're so bombarded with imagery of fashion and music and celebrities and influencers, and we're all on our phones consuming aesthetic. What is that new aesthetic? And when you look at Fode's work, you know, he's done collabs with major brands, but he's also created special collections like he did for the Sierra Leone football team here, but did it in such a beautiful way, and how it was styled and the story that goes with it, the weight that comes with the story, and why somebody who might not be a soccer player could wear that, walk down the street and, you know, make a political statement. And I think further to that, and the power of political statements and words, is, you know, a few years ago he designed a very iconic t-shirt where it only says 3 words, designed by an immigrant. Just those 3 words, super powerful. You wear them, you walk down the street, and people know your politics, whoever you are. Put that on a screen where 1,000 people are gonna watch that video. People are fascinated by that line. They're gonna go, they're gonna discover not just a new designer, but they're gonna discover a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing. And I think that is such a beautiful thing, and is why I truly love the power of costume design in film. And, you know, with Kirby, again, 2 words, Pierre Moss, very personal to him, shares them with the world, and goes on to rework how we view Black American fashion, how we view Black identity as a whole, and how we view and hear and consume, and how we hear and consume taste, just taste. And I think it also, with both their work, it centers on my fascination with the idea of decoration and the idea of how as humans we decorate ourselves. And I think we decorate ourselves through fashion, most definitely, but we decorate ourselves through such specific detail, you know, whether it's jewelry or it's hair or it's clothing. Why do we choose to furnish ourselves like we do? And, you know, nowhere has that power been so iconic than in cinema and in film and in fashion films, where you throw these things together, you put it on screen, and you create aspiration for people, and you create sartorial aspiration, which I think is such a rare affordance that many people don't have or didn't have for many years, but we do have now with the proliferation of platforms like the Berlin Fashion Film Festival, or, you know, blogs, whether it was street photography blogs or it's just influencers and their Instagrams now. It's power. And I think that is what attracts me at its core, is the power and responsibility of bringing together all these elements and sharing them with the world, sharing yourself with the world, and giving yourself a sense of purpose to an extent, a sense of purpose as to why you wear the clothes you wear. And in that, I must add that it comes with greater social responsibility now, just because of sustainability. Are we wearing too much? Are we wasting too much? What are we doing to do better for the environment? But I think for as long as humans have something to say, which I don't think we're never going to run out of, it's important for us to carry on sharing ourselves with the world, and how we share ourselves with the world is through decoration. And to further this, how we share our ideas with the world is through art. And with film in particular, it's such it appeals to the masses, you know, across class, across race, across identity. Whether it's a Marvel superhero or an independent film from the middle of nowhere Africa, someone's gonna watch it, someone's gonna resonate with it, and we're gonna fall in love with the textures of what the characters are wearing. We're gonna identify a piece of ourselves in that character no matter what. And I think that's where representation really comes down to the details, and for me is a huge factor into how I anchor my narrative skills and my technical visual skills when I make a film. With that, I would like to leave you with one of my favorite scenes in a film from Carmen Jones, starring Dorothy Dandridge and Harry Belafonte. And I love it because the costume design in that is so purposeful and so powerful. She wears this beautiful orange and black ensemble, and she dances around this army barracks lunchroom. And she's this very seductive kind of, you know, lead actor in the film, and Harry Belafonte is quietly falling for her. But it's also the power of Black joy juxtaposed in such an institution of American life, the army, and that play on worlds through what she's wearing and how she pops up against it, I think stuck with me for so long, and I love so dearly. And I really want to leave you with it because it's not just Black love, it's Black joy, and it's radical representation in the most minimal and subtle way. But when you dissect it, it's a plethora of inspiration. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the clip.
Hey. Hi, Carmen.
Hi. Well, get a load of this hip-swinging floozy rolling around to work in time for lunch.
Prune puss, you make sounds I don't like.
I'm telling the foreman unit's late again.
You do that, and I'll scratch out the one good eye you got left.
Hey, Carmen. How am I going to pass this with me tonight? I can dance those other guys right to the floor.
T-Bone, you're too little and too late.
I don't waste no time. Dig me, baby?
You're wasting your time right now, Sergeant. The wind's blowing in another direction. Ain't no use arguing with the wind.
Hey, how about going out with me tonight instead of playing the field?
Yeah, come on, pick out one. That'll release the rest of them.
I won't pick out a man, and he won't pick out me. It don't go that way. You can't ever know where your crazy heart wants to go. Love's a baby that grows up wild, and he don't do what you want him to. Love ain't nobody's angel child, and he won't pay any mind to you. One man gives me his diamond stud, and I won't give him a cigarette. One man treats me like I was mud, and all I got that man can get. So baby, that's love. He don't do what you want. That's love. Love ain't nobody's. That's love. And he won't pay any mind. That's love. You go for me, and I'm taboo. But if you're hard to get, I go for you. And if I do, then you are through, boy. My baby, that's the end of you. The end of you. So take your cue, boy. Don't say I didn't tell you true. She told you true. I told you truly, if I love you, that's the end of you. You for me as I can do, but if you're hard to get, I go for you. And if I do, then you are through. But my baby, that's the end of you, the end of you. So take your cue, boy. Don't say I didn't tell you true. She told you true. I told
door that you can close. She just picks you a quick goodbye and flicks the salt from a tail and goes. If you listen, then you'll get taught. And here's your lesson for today. If I chase you, then you'll get caught. And once I got you, I go my way. That's love. There ain't no door that's love. She just picks you up. That's love. And takes the salt from her tail. That's love. You go for me and I'm taboo. But if you're hard to get, I go for you. And if I do, then you are through, boy. My baby, that's the end of you. The end of you. So take your cue, boy. Don't say I didn't tell you true. She told you true. I told you truly. If I love you, that's the end of you.
I hear you're gonna be a flyboy. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I hope if you gotta use a parachute, it's one I made. I'd like to toss a party for you tonight at Billy Pastor's. Give you a real send-off. Pick me up at 8. We'll have ourselves a ball.
Hello and welcome back from BFFF. Metz and Racine is an established photographic partnership between Barbara Metz and Yves Racine. Formed in 2000, they have since established their reputation as pioneering and innovative image makers. Their refined eye and playful brilliance reveal the elegant, unconventional and secret lives of inanimate objects. Metz and Racine create poetic, visionary and beautiful imagery for a wide range of luxury, fashion, commercial and editorial clients.
We are Metz and Racine, photographers and directors Barbara and Eve. Together, we are 20, well, kind of. We live in London. We love colors, fashion, art, poetry, humor, and telling a story. A few years ago, we started experimenting with elephant toothpaste and making things move.
Then Louis Vuitton called. They wanted us to tell the story of the brand. We pitched for weeks. A mood tape was requested.
We didn't know what a mood tape was, but we did one anyhow.
We went to Prague with lorries filled with clothes and vintage luggage. We had a big studio, a great team, a sports car, and a jungle.
We built an Eiffel Tower, a boat, and a flashing crinoline. We won Best Direction at a film festival and were voted top 10 fashion films of the season.
After that, we really wanted everything to move. Legs, bags, sunglasses, scarves. We put little people in magical caves.
And large things. And made others small. We placed a watch in a snowstorm and filmed a poet dancing with his queen. We are Metz and Racine.
Louis Vuitton was just 14 when he left the Jura on a journey to Paris, where he learned to master carpentry. Carpentry, which he used to engineer crinoline petticoats. For Empress Eugenie, Louis became a man of note. Noted by the world of fashion, his fame was gracious and still dominates fashion today. Always creative, always audacious. Audacious, synonymous with his name, where art and craftsmanship soon became, from Capucine to Agnières, sources of innovation beyond compare. Comparing his customers' needs, his intuition of an age of greater travel than any before. He invented the flat trunk, the first modern luggage, the famous S-lock, an unpickable thief block, the mini trunk, and so much more. More cases, accessories, and custom luggage, visionary in all types of voyage. Savognin de Braza's camp bed trunk for explorers caused a sensation amongst the influencers. Influencing the 30s as women found a voice, Louis Vuitton's new keep-all gave them a choice of purses to carry that are now fashion icons. Iconic is the monogram LV, standing for true artistry. Art nourished by travel, then further enhanced by Sprouse Murakami evolving in a dance. Dance of creative genius soaring onward and up, like the wind-blown sails of the America's Cup. Cup sails that echo the avant-garde lines of the foundation, a symbol that defines the courage beloved of Louis Vuitton.
I am the magician, storyteller and artist. Lost in my thoughts, with you I will share the poet's dream. A poet floats under the moon, between sky and higher. He dreams of his queen, between earth and desire. But while he's sleeping, she disappears. Double time, he scrambles to find her. He bumps into a robot who couldn't be kinder. Thinking he saw her in a cloud, the robot builds a staircase to provide him a path. The poet climbs up, but falls straight down. No queen at the top, just air and a tumble. Before little punk, charming and electric, whom he leaves shaking when the ground suddenly rumbles. A Spaniard steps forth and stands in his way. A matador to master, he provokes a duel. He mounts an attack, but the poet is faster. Then suddenly his queen reappears, alighting graciously, no sign of alarm. The poet suspects an illusion, some magical liar, and yet there she is, in her most handsome attire. Did he dream her departure or her return? No one knows. Last we heard, they were on their toes, dancing.